Alright guys, welcome back to another Dissidia Duellum Final Fantasy video. Now this video was a video that I was going to create after a couple of days that the closed beta has been out. But seeing as how they have a weird, not really a weird schedule, because really the schedule is based off of Japanese time instead of North American time. It's weird for us. For us who live in the States, it's a little weird because basically our time to be able to play the game is at nighttime. And some of us do have to work, so we obviously got to get some sleep. But hey, to all the night owls out there, you're good to go because you can play the game all night long for like the 8-10 hours that it is live every day. And the beta is only going to last up until next Friday, so just 1 week. So we have a limited amount of time, which is an odd way to actually do a closed beta. I've never heard of anybody doing a closed beta like this, where it's like a scheduled time. But maybe they're doing some maintenance in between these sessions, and then the feedback that they are probably getting between both the North American servers and then the Japanese servers. That could possibly be a thing, but it's just weird all around. But this video, I wanted to make my honest first impressions of this game, because if you attended my live stream last night, we played about almost 4 hours, and then I played a little bit longer after that. It was a big WTF. I was like, what in the world am I playing? Is this something that I am genuinely going to get myself into once the game officially drops? And so I had a lot of questions, especially after my first match within Dissidia Duellum. I'm like, I don't see myself playing this game. But as I started playing it more and more, as I started to explore a little bit more of the game and learning how things operate, the gacha, the abilities, that being able to obtain the characters, so on and so forth, I actually started to enjoy the game. But I will say that there are some issues that I'm hoping that they do address, and there are some concerns that that me and many others are wondering how the gacha aspect specifically is going to be once the game actually goes live. But we have a lot of info that we have obtained just by playing like the amount of time that we did on day one for the closed beta, and there's probably going to be a whole lot more that we are going to learn as we continue playing for the rest of the 6 days that we have left to play it. So we're going to talk about at least my first initial impressions. What do I think about certain things within the first day of me playing this closed beta. So the gameplay that you are seeing in the background was gameplay from the live stream that I was doing last night. That's the only gameplay that I currently have at the moment. And there'll probably be some more gameplay as I do play these next couple of days for the closed beta. So one of the first things that I wanted to discuss was the actual, really, the gameplay of the game, like the basics of the game. So the game, you are playing vertically. This is not horizontal like we used to do it in Opera Omnia. And personally for me, I don't typically play games that are vertical. It's not really, I'm not against it. It's just like a personal choice. Like I would prefer to hold my phone horizontally, just like I would do a normal PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, right? So this is actually going to be a little bit different for me, because like I am now having to make sure that I position my thumbs on the screen where they need to be, which leads me into one of the first issues that I had when I got into my first match, was the fact that you had to make sure that your thumbs were positioned the right way with your left hand, making it so that you are able to run to the direction that you want it to go. And then with your other hand, you're either swiping up on the abilities, or you are also going to be moving the camera around to the direction that you are wanting to see. And it did take me a while to actually get used to that. It took me a couple matches to finally actually like lock it down and like be more comfortable with this type of gameplay, because I feel like in between all of that and then seeing all the chaos on the screen and also paying attention to so many different things, whether it be attacking monsters, whether it be looking at what the enemy team is doing, whether it be what the boss is doing, there was a lot of things happening within the game and you have to be quick to react to it. And don't get me wrong, I had my moments where I was kicking butt, but there were a lot of moments where I was getting utterly destroyed because there was just so much chaos. And then in certain moments, it just felt like either my character itself was frozen, there was too much happening on the screen, or just I had no ability to move, and it did get very frustrating at times. But at the end of the day, I was still enjoying myself. I was enjoying the gameplay aspect. Like, I'm not gonna say that it is perfect. I'm not gonna say that it is meant for everybody, because I know not a lot of people like this type of gameplay. And this is, again, like I mentioned earlier, like this type of gameplay is something that I really don't go towards after when it comes to games that I personally play. I am more of a turn-based type of guy. A lot of players like the open world type of feel, and you know, I've slowly gotten myself into that type of gameplay style, especially with a lot of the Final Fantasies that have released. So, you know, it's stuff like that I have to basically adjust, kind of get used to it, so on and so forth. And I feel like it's gonna take a little bit of time. And I feel like that initial impression could potentially frustrate any newer players, or when the game drops, it'll potentially frustrate a lot of new players, and it'll make them kind of like question, like, what kind of game is this? Why am I even trying this? So on and so forth. Now, one positive thing that I do want to mention is the animations. The animations through the abilities, the characters, how they look within game. All of that, I think, looks gorgeous. A lot of the animations look fantastic. They look great. Depending on the device that you have will kind of determine how the graphics look overall in the game. There is a setting where you can actually adjust the FPS, and you can also adjust the graphics level. So the graphics level for me, before I changed it up to the max, was at 3, and the maximum is 5. And you do notice that there is a little bit of difference in terms of the outlining of the character. But thankfully though, with me increasing the graphics to the max, it did not affect performance on my phone. And for those wondering what type of device I have a Samsung S23 Ultra, and I've had this since it released, so it's been about 2, maybe 3 years roughly, I think, and it's still doing just fine. It's able to handle all of the current mobile games, or really just the one mobile game that I was playing before this closed beta drop, which was Honkai Star Rail. Now, in terms of temperature, like, did my phone warm up? Did it get hot? It did warm up a little bit during certain points, but it never got to that point where it was like super hot where I had to like turn on a fan to try to cool down my phone. That was not an issue for me, so I think that's a good thing, especially with my my graphic settings being set to high. Now, when it comes to the abilities of the game, I will say that there's a little bit of a hit and miss whenever it comes to the abilities of the game. The reason why I say that is because I feel like, well, the abilities are definitely something related to Gacha, which we will get into for this game. But I feel like with certain abilities, obviously you want to get the best ones, because you have N, you have rare, you have super rare, and then you have ultra rare, if I'm not mistaken. So with all of that, you do get different abilities depending on which ones that you have. Now, there are universal abilities which you are able to equip to all the characters. And then, of course, you have the character's own abilities that will only work with them. Now, whenever you are equipping these abilities, again, you have your universal ones, but you also want to make sure that you have supportive abilities equipped onto the character, because that will also boost their stats. Now, the stats, when it comes to abilities, you have like HP, attack, and defense, and then you also have the character's power levels, which is basically like the overall total number of the power for said character that you pick. So with all that being said, you have a lot to actually like work with. You have to basically figure out what abilities you want to be able to equip to your character, because there is kind of an auto feature, but the auto feature is only for like the support abilities or like the support aspect for the character. But like when it comes to the main abilities, what you are going to be using in battle, that is going to be different. So you have a lot of options. You have like attacking types. You have ways to be able to increase speed. You have ways to be able to heal yourself. You're able to grant yourself a shield. There are a lot of abilities. Some of them do have some cool times on them, but overall, like, you can actually mix up and you could potentially get a lot out of these abilities. Now, for a free-to-play player, this is something that I was wondering, how is this going to work for free-to-play players? Because this game, 100%, it's going to be based towards PvP. Like, when it comes to like story, I almost feel like it doesn't exist. Like, yeah, there's cutscenes and whatnot that you are able to unlock as you are progressing through the season, what is it? The season game, season pass, whatever it's called. But as you progress through it, with the abilities, like you as a free-to-play player, obviously you want to get the best ones, but if you cannot, if you are just going to rely on the resources that the game is going to give you for whatever is happening during that time that the game is dropping, I feel like a lot of free-to-play players are going to be using or relying on the abilities from the rare tier and the super rare tier. Now, if you do manage to get the ultra rare tier, cool. But if you do manage to get like multiple dupes, you are able to unlock the level cap for set abilities, which will be able to increase your overall stats, HP, attack, defense, power level for the character. I can see it, like, if I was a 100% free-to-play player, I can definitely see myself relying on those abilities, especially those that that I have been able to unlock the level cap on them. I can see myself using those abilities. Now, don't get me wrong, they are like I guess you could say they are like the top tier version of said ability, and then you have like the low tier set of said ability. But I feel like overall, I think you, depending on the player or the enemies that you are going up against and what abilities they have equipped, I feel like you could in quotations, be able to be on par with some of these players who are maybe swiping to get the resources needed to be able to pull for potential ultra rare abilities, especially if they are trying to get dupes for them as well. So I feel like it could, again, in quotations, you could possibly be able to put up a fight against players who are pay to play, whale, so on and so forth. So there is a possibility, because yes, you can have all the abilities on the world, but if you just straight up suck whenever you are fighting them in battle and you are getting clapped by somebody else because you just not doing that well within the actual fight, then that is a skill issue, and I'm gonna call it as it is. And I felt like I had that skill issue many times in the many battles that I was doing late last night during the live stream that I was doing. So I feel like with the different combinations, abilities is definitely going to be a primary factor that a lot of players are going to be focusing on to get the max out of their setups and hopefully be able to defeat the enemy team and the boss. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is going to be the gacha aspect for this game, like how I feel about it. So you are technically pulling not just for abilities, but you're also pulling for the characters and their costumes. Now, there is a bit of a, I guess you can call it a pity system, where you are able to get an ultra rare. Now, I'm not 1,000% sure if it is a guarantee that you will get said ultra rare for said banner, because the banners that we currently have right now, it just seems like it's like whatever shows up is whatever shows up. So it just based off of what I had seen while I was playing the beta, it seems like the current banners just have all of the ultra rares that we are able to get during the beta. Now, again, that could change in the future. They could have specific ultra rare abilities. Maybe those featured ones will have an increase in rates. But other than that, at the moment, we have access to be able to get all of the current ones that are available in the beta. So abilities wise, you were able to pull for that, but there is somewhat of a pity system. So the pity system that I saw during the beta was that you, as you keep pulling, there was a pity system where you'll be able to get one character ticket. Now, with that character ticket, you are able to pull for either a character or you are able to pull for their costume. So any of the characters that you are missing, you will have the ability to be able to pull for said character in that specific banner. Now, when it comes to the ultra rare abilities, there is somewhat of a pity system to that as well, where once you reach that threshold, which I can't remember what the actual number is, I'm gonna have to look it up, or I'll see if I can find the specific timestamp of the during the beta, because we did see that when I was pulling on it, and I will post it up on this portion of the video. If not, I'll just post it on text or whatever. But there is a pity system, and then you are guaranteed to get an ultra rare whenever you are pulling. So when it comes to all of that, there are also, I guess another thing to add to it is that there are also free-to-play coins, free-to-play mod coins is what I'm going to be calling them. And then you also have the paid coins as well. They are also paid mod coins. So more than likely there is going to be paid banners, and you know, there could be a possibility where those paid banners might have an increase in the rate ups for those who are willing to spend on the game. I'm just kind of throwing possibilities out there. I'm not 1,000% sure if that is true, but just kind of like based off of like previous mobile games that I've played in the past, I feel like that is what they typically like to lean on. But I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing from past experiences from past mobile games that I have played. So there are more than likely going to be paid banners, and then you got your free to play banners and whatnot. So there is the gacha system. I feel like it's just a little too much. I feel like it would have been solid for them to, if we were to get the ability for said character, then I feel like we should also have the ability to also unlock the character as well. But that's just me. Now, one thing I definitely want to mention that I am having some issues with in terms of my experience during the first night of the beta is going to be the camera angles. So the camera angles and the response time were at some points, well, really at many points, it felt like it was very unresponsive. Even if I were to literally look down at not that I'm not looking at my screen, but like if I were to make sure that my thumbs were positioned in the correct spot so that I am able to move my character, or swipe, or just anything in general, there were some times where it felt like it was not responding. Like, I don't know if there was like some lag in between everything that was going on during the fights and whatnot, or just in general, like everything was just it just felt like at times it was unresponsive, and it would get very frustrating, especially when you are trying to move your camera so that it can point to the right direction that you are wanting to look at. There were a lot of times where it was very frustrating for me, and it would actually cause me to either get knocked out and then getting revived and then trying to go back to the fight. But it would just make it like unbearable at times because it just felt like a lot was happening. The other thing I do want to mention is also that there is a way to be able to change where you can set your thumbs as well. So in these settings, there is an option where instead of putting your thumbs like right in the middle of the screen, like to like move your character or whatever, you also have the options for it to be on the side, which I actually tried that last night after I ended my stream, just because I wanted to mess around with different settings and kind of learn a little bit more off screen. And I noticed that once I changed over to the settings, making it so that the button layout was was on the left and on the right side of the screen, it actually made things a little bit much smoother for me, and I felt like the response time was better. I think my issue was that the abilities was very close to where I had my thumbs whenever the setting was on the middle of the or the bottom middle of the or the bottom center-ish middle of the screen. I felt like maybe part of my thumbs was touching where the abilities was at, and maybe because of that it was thinking that I was trying to swipe up. Maybe that could have been an issue. I'm not entirely sure, but like the positioning and then the camera angles and then trying to move everything around was definitely one of my personal issues. I don't know if it was for anybody else who's played the beta, but I did struggle a little bit with that. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is the response time, and then also it seems like there is a bit of invincibility frames. I know that there are certain points when your character where he cannot when they cannot get they cannot take any damage whatsoever, then yes, I understand that at that point, then yes, you are technically invisible because you are in the middle of an animation or you're going into burst or whatever the reason is, which they do actually state in game with a notice. There were some times outside of that, like whenever you are either doing animations or just like whatever is going on, where it just felt like whatever you did, it would just not work. And I feel like that also kind of leads towards the response time between what you are trying to do and then what's happening within the game. And I don't know if there is some like tuning that needs to be done to try to make it a little bit much easier to make the response time a little bit better, but I felt like that was one of the issues that I was not a fan of, and I encountered that way too many times. And I'm hoping that with player feedback during this closed beta, they can try to look into that and try to tweak a little bit of those specific like issues that I have mentioned. So to end this video off, I think this game may last a little bit, but I don't think it is going to last as long as it did Opera Omnia. I think that they are trying too hard in terms of using the Dissidia name for a game that they thought that it would actually do well. I think that because of the fact that they are very limited with the amount of mobile games that Square Enix has now, that I feel like they are just trying to throw something out there so they can get whatever money they can, and if it doesn't work out, then oh well, because they can easily shut down the game and not worry about it. And it's not the first time that we've seen that, because there have been there's a huge list of games that Square Enix has shut down. So this is like nothing new to us, and especially to the Opera Omnia community. They hurt us, like they really did. It sucked that they shut down the game, and you would think that they would actually consider thinking that they would see how we feel and actually consider coming out with something even better than this, because I feel like they definitely could have done better instead of doing a copy paste of another game that is basically the same thing and just replacing the characters with Final Fantasy characters and calling it Dissidia Duellum. I honestly feel like they could have done way better, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat things. Yeah, it's obvious what they're doing. I feel like they are just trying to get a couple $100 from players, and then after that, when they see that the numbers are going down, just like what happened with Opera Omnia, they are just going to shut down the game. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm just being realistic here. I feel like this is what the direction... I think this is the direction that they are trying to head. But of course, companies will not admit what they are wanting to do. In a Twitter post that was posted before the beta even came out, I think NOMURA posted something that they wanted to do something different with the Dissidia name, but I feel like this was not the right direction that they could have done it. But again, I see myself playing this game casually. I don't think I could see myself playing this game super hardcore. Yeah, I'll log into it, play the game, have a couple of matches, play with viewers, play with friends, so on and so forth. But other than that, I mean, like a game like this, unless they can prove us wrong, and actually make this game enjoyable, then I don't foresee this game lasting, I don't know, 2 years, a year maybe. It really just depends on how how the devs for this game, how Square Enix is going to handle in terms of how free to play this game is going to be, how they're going to handle the PvP aspect, how they're going to handle the story aspect, because when it comes to the story, like, I just feel like the story is like non-existent. And again, I just feel like they're just using the Dissidia name as an excuse to kind of like throw the Final Fantasy characters out there to get those who love Final Fantasies, to be those who love specific Final Fantasies, their favorite Final Fantasies, to be able to play their game, and then hopefully potentially they might be able to get something out of their player base. That's just me. That's just how I feel personally. This game could have a chance, but we'll see what Square Enix is going to do. The gacha aspect of this game, it's not something that I am personally a fan of. I felt like, which is something that I said earlier, I felt like if you are pulling for abilities and you get the ability for a brand new character, that you should get the character for free, and then the only options would be either, like, let's say if you're pulling for dupes of the ability for said character, after maybe a certain amount of times you'll get like the costume, or maybe even on the season pass you can get bonuses for new character. I don't know, like there are probably a million ideas you can throw out there, but this gameplay style is definitely not for everybody. Like I mentioned earlier, this at the beginning I was just like, what in the world am I playing? But as I started to play, I started to enjoy myself more and more. But I can see myself playing this game casually, and we're just, I'm going to keep an open mind, just like I usually do when it comes to a lot of games. I like to keep an open mind on things, and so, like, I'm willing to give it a shot and see what happens. But hopefully, with some of the issues that I mentioned earlier in this video, they can actually tweak some things out, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll keep continuing playing the beta, even though it has such a crazy schedule. I will try to play it as much as I can, and hopefully, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, they'll consider making an open beta, and then that way everybody can play it. And then once the game drops in 2026, whenever that is going to happen, then maybe we can actually see what direction they're going to take the game. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. I guess at some point, if I'm able to get more gameplay, or if there are other videos that I can throw out there for Dissidia Duellum, I will do that in the comments. Oh, excuse me. I will do that in the future. But I will give my final overall thoughts once the beta is done, and then we'll see what happens, what they are going to do afterwards, and then I guess we'll kind of go on from there. So, anyways, that's going to be it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.